Hi, I'm doing this video to help you describe a piecewise function and especially help you write your answers in interval notation and describe an interval on the x-axis. So complete the description of the piecewise function just graphed below. Use interval notation to indicate the intervals. Okay, so interval notation is with commas and square brackets. And in fact, there's three different ways to kind of describe an interval. You could say, let me just give you a few. You could say x is between, let's say I say x is between 1 and 5, right? If I write that in interval notation, then I would, when we have a strict inequality like that, then you have to use the curvy bracket, okay? And that is because this bracket is when the endpoint is not included. In other words, x has to be strictly greater than 1, and it cannot be equal to 1. So we would say that endpoint is not one of the values that we are including. So we use a parenthesis bracket, and then I'd do a 1, and then this side is equal to, and then so we would use this square bracket when it's or equal to. So we would use a square bracket here, and we would use the 5. So, and the graph of this would look like, look at a 1 and a 5 on here. Where we have this strict inequality with no equal sign, then we put an open dot. Means I don't shade in the dot. It's because the equation is not, the function is not 1. Or the function does not have a value at that particular x value for 1. And then for the 5, I would shade in this dot 5, and then we would shade in all the values in between, because all the values in between are between 1 and 5. And we did not want to include 1 because it's strictly just numbers greater than 1. And we wanted to, so it includes like 1.02 or 1.02, it includes that number slightly larger than 1. And, but then not actually equal to 1. And then we shaded in the 5 because the 5 is included in these, and I should make it even bigger kind of. The 5 is included in the answer. So that's what it would look like. So this strict inequality is associated with this and associated with the open circle. And then the or equal to is associated with the square bracket and with the shaded in circle. Okay, so let's go to this. So I focus on this first little line. It says the function is equal to -5, but when x, and this is an element notation, when x is in this interval, they're saying, on what interval is this function equal to -5? So look right here, here is -5. So right here, it looks like between -4 on the x-axis and -1. So I know those are my values, -4 and -1, right? Because see, it stops here and right here. So that blue line starts and stops. It starts at -4 and it stops at -1. So therefore I have I'm using the endpoints -4 and -1, call those endpoints. And then see how it has a shaded circle. So that's why I'm going to use the square bracket. And then it also has a shaded circle, so I'm going to use another square bracket. And if I was writing this in like algebra notation, I would have written the X in the middle, and I would have used the and or equal to between the endpoints. Okay, but this is what we want for this particular problem. Okay, now we're going to move on. And notice on this next interval, it's -4. So this is -4. On what interval is it -4? Well, it's from -1 to +2. So -1 to +2. And then notice how we have an open circle there. So it's not including the actual value of -1. It's just strictly numbers greater than 1. So that could be written X is strictly, with the strict inequality, meaning there's no equal sign. But then this is shaded. So I would use the or equals 2. And then if I want to write that in interval notation, the strict inequality is the parenthesis, and the equals one is the bracket, square bracket. So that's what this one's going to look like: a parenthesis on one side and actually a square bracket. And there is a difference, and they will mark you wrong if you don't get these brackets, these parenthesis or square bracket correctly. Okay. Now, last but not least, here's the third one. So the equation is equal to 3 over what interval? This is 3 right here. And so I look at the interval, and it is from 2 to 6. So I know it's 2 and 6. And if I was going to write that using regular notation, I put the X in the middle and put the 2 and the 6, and then this is an open circle, not including that point. So I'll use a strict inequality for that side, but then this is shaded circle. So I would use an or equal to, a weak inequality on that side. And so the strict inequality is the parenthesis, and the or equal to weak, they call it a weak inequality, is the square bracket. So that's what we want there. And there you go. All right, I hope you found this really, really helpful. Have a great day. Bye.